Welcome everyone to episode 79 of the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and this particular guest is someone I met, almost 10 years ago. And and and,
I
and,
think it was 10 years
it
ago.
was 10 years ago, and I want to get into. There's a specific story about how this person and I first met. It was like I said, it was about 10 years ago. I get a call from my buddy Jamie, who's a bass player who I know for years. He and I go way back to like 2005. Really good friend of mine. He was playing with this cover band for quite a few months, and he had to step away from that, to deal with some personal stuff, some legal matters, and he gives me a call. He's like, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing right now, but I play in this cover band. It's a top 40 band. They need a bass player. Would you mind taking over for me for a few months?" And I mean, at that time, I was like, "Yeah." I was just still like, I was just out of grad school by that point. I was living at home. I didn't really even have a job necessarily. So
Yeah.
it was one of those things where it kind of worked out pretty well. I was like, "Oh wow, you get to play music and get paid? Yeah, sign me up." And it was a really cool experience. The band was called D42, and we mainly played like around St. Pete and Clearwater. A lot of it on the beach, and it was such a unique experience. It was different from anything that I had really done up to that point because I my main thing is playing in original bands and playing original music, and this was such a different audience, such a different type of music, and yeah, it was a completely different environment. It was a top 40 band where it's like you'd have some rock stuff, but you'd also have some pop tunes and some classic, top 40 stuff. Everything kind of all wound together, and it was really great. And it was a really great experience for me as a musician to be able to adapt to all those different types of music that I hadn't played in years, that I hadn't really, and some types that I hadn't really even played before up to that point. And it wasn't like an awkward thing for me because like by that point I was pretty confident in myself. I kind of knew, everyone kind of knew who I was. Jack, he's a hard rock guy. He's in hard rock and metal bands. Like I didn't really feel the need to. I really didn't feel the need to prove myself necessarily because like I said, I was already pretty secure in who I was at that point where it's like, okay, like, and I was even talking to friends of mine even after I had done this, where like, Jack, I don't know, I don't know, man. It's like, they're making you go up there and play in like Katy Perry and all this other stuff,
Firework. I remember.
yeah, and buddies of mine would be like, man, I don't know if I could do that. That's a pretty wild thing, and that was sort of my attitude towards it, where it's like, all right, well, even if it's not something that I listen to on my own, it's something, it's material that I could still have fun with. I could still make my own. I could still play it like it's my favorite thing in the world, and I ended up getting a new appreciation out of a lot of pop music and a lot of top 40 music out of it, which I had already had coming into it, but even more so after playing that type of music and seeing the reaction that people got from it. So it was a really rewarding experience for me, and I would definitely recommend that to any younger musician who's looking to cut their teeth, to get out there and step out of your comfort zone a little bit and try and play some different material. And you never know, you might end up enjoying it. But it was fun for me. It was definitely I'd gotten to meet a lot of really cool people over those few months, and including my guest today, who she was not the full-time lead singer of D42, but she had come in, but she had filled in when the usual lead singer at the time, Amanda Keller, who was actually an earlier podcast guest of mine a couple years ago, great girl, but
She had just
but
had some
yeah,
had
yes.
scheduling issues.
Exactly. But like anytime Amanda wasn't able to make it, my guest today was able to come in and fill in for her. And now, all these years later, I found out that she's doing a lot of original music. And when I say original music, I mean like she's writing it, producing it, and really putting it out there and really dedicating a lot of herself into this. And I caught wind of everything that she was doing, and I was saying like, wow, she's really really going for it, and I had to reach out to her and have her on. She has a really interesting story, and I'm very glad to reconnect with this person and get her on my show. So please welcome to the Phoenix Report, Laine.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Jack. And I just want to say congratulations. Episode 79. I had no idea how many episodes you even had out, so that is amazing. I had listened to
Thanks.
one or two, but I didn't go into the whole library, and I guess I didn't look at the numbers, and that's amazing that you've been doing this for years. That's great.
Yeah, and I started doing this in 2015. I was listening to a lot of podcasts at the time, and I just thought, like, you know what? I've got a lot of, I've got a lot of stuff on my mind that I want to get out, and I've met a lot of really interesting people over the years, like yourself, and many other people over the years. So I figured I'd have some interesting stories to tell, and it kind of grew from, just being one-on-one conversations like this, but I'll also do like movie reviews and like I used to do like wrestling reviews as well. I'm a big wrestling fan, so that was part of the things that I would do on here. And you
Wrestling
just kind of
like
like
WWE or like wrestling like
yeah,
real wrestling?
well, WWE,
Oh.
yeah, pro wrestling, yeah,
I I come from Iowa, so when you say wrestling, I think
like
singlets
amateur wrestling,
and cauliflower
right,
cauliflower ear. Like that's what I think of. So I'm like, when you're
right,
talking about
right,
wrestling, I'm like, that's really cool. Where's that podcast? Like, I'll listen to that.
yeah.
Coming from
No,
Iowa, that's
I
the
don't know
only
as much
major
about
thing
the
that comes out of there
don't
is amazing
It's
wrestlers.
true. I don't know as much about the
Interesting.
amateur wrestling scene, other than a lot of those guys end up going into pro wrestling and WWE. So yeah, it happens. Kurt Angle.
I don't know. My dad went to West Wahawk, West Waterloo High, and their coach Siddons, he's one of the legends of coaching now. He is the legend because he coached Dan Gable,
Yeah,
and if you're familiar who that is,
I am.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so my dad was in wrestling with them, wrestled, had scholarships through college, so it was pretty cool to like hear wrestling, but we were not talking about the same thing because I don't know anything about the other stuff except for that I've seen John Cena was in Puerto Rico and I was in Puerto Rico. We were at the same resort one time, like
Well, there you
last
go.
February, right before Corona came.
There you go. We're already off to an interesting start. I didn't even know we were going to go down this
I
road,
know.
but that's
Well, I wanted to talk about. I don't even remember how I got involved with D42 specifically. It was definitely through Jamie. Jamie and I have known each other since 2002, 2001-ish, because his little
hmm
brother and I went to high school together and did chorus and musical theater. Um, and his best friend, uh, which is now his wife,
hmm
and I became friends, and she started doing photography for my other cover band. He introduced me to another guitarist, Ian, and we were going to do our own cover band. And then Jamie's like, hey, this girl's not showing up. She's got some scheduling issues, and she's doing her own project. And he worked a long time on her like original project, and she was doing really, really well. And so while that was happening, and then of course you said his scheduling issues, that's when you came in. But I didn't really come in to D42 thinking, oh, this is going to be like something I'm always going to fill in for, because I don't think I even ever took the money. I did sometimes, and sometimes I was like, nah, just give it back to everybody else. Um, because I was working with Drew, who is the head of
hmm
D42 and another cover band out of Miami, at the same time called the Headliners, and
hmm
Amanda was also supposed to be filling in for that as well, but due to her scheduling issues, she couldn't commit. So we were going. That was the first time I went to Puerto Rico. They paid
hmm
they paid for a flight. We went down there. We stayed at a resort that's not there anymore because I tried to stay there when we went back. It was like I think it's the Ritz Carlton now, but it's not rebuilt yet. The one that we stayed at. So I went when we went back last February. I was like, we have to stay there. You don't understand. It was like the Grand Malia or the Trump Resort at the time. Had an amazing golf course, this ridiculous pool, and we just played a
Nice.
small corporate party. Like I'm talking maybe 60, 70 people, but we're getting per diem. They're paying for our flights. They're paying for our rooms, and literally flew in. It was a 24-hour thing. Flew everyone in, all
Nice.
the equipment, all the setup, did it. And one thing I really liked about that band is they never took breaks. That's why they had so
hmm
many singers. And so it was just go, go, go. And it was so
Yeah.
fun. And I just was young and had all the energy, so I was all about it. Um, and that was before I started, that's before I met you.
Right.
So I had been doing that for a while with my other band, and I was also with another band, another cover band, Sound Spectrum, and we were playing at a very well-known, well, it's now shut down, breaks my heart, called the Fox. And
Mm-hmm.
we were playing Saturday nights down in the room, their big room, because there's a piano room in the back, and I would do that on Friday nights, and then Saturday nights, which was like the boom night, we would play there. And then we were at, where were we at? Frenchie's, Brown Boxer, all in Clearwater Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucky Penny was doing just weddings pretty much, and then I had headliners doing corporate parties. So I was doing music full time at that point, um,
Yeah.
which is not something that I really thought would ever be I would be doing. And I was making, I mean, that one trip to Puerto Rico, I got paid sick amounts of money for it. It
Yeah.
paid my rent, that one, and all my bills, that one trip.
Yeah, I mean, some of these corporate events, if you're able to get booked on something like that, and sometimes they'll have like big name bands.
Headliners open for Jason Derulo. I mean, they were
There you
getting
go.
paid. I mean, they didn't do, they're very high end. And so they were
Yeah.
getting booked more than they could commit. So I think Drew had started D42, and it's now
Hmm.
called something else. I feel like,
The Hit Factory, I
yes, the
think.
Hit Factory, and so
Yeah.
like he was picking up all these extra stuff, and but Allison, I think, is how I came together with everybody. She was
Yeah.
dating some guy at the time that I had known um, a long time ago. I went to Tampa Catholic. He went to the all boys Jesuit school. And
Hmm.
so we all started hanging out. But he wasn't even in the country. So it was really weird how Alice and I became friends. But that's how I got reconnected. That I remember now. That's how I got reconnected to everything. And
That's right.
Jamie was the center point. He brought everybody together. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And what you said about top 40 music and all the different types of music, I wanted to go into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I did a podcast yesterday, and um, the host had mentioned, oh, well, actually, I'm just going to talk about who she is, too. Her name's Samantha Foster. Her podcast is Field of Music. She does it
Okay.
for mental health awareness um, relating to music. She's not
Right
a
on. Shout
musician.
out Samantha Foster. All right.
Yeah, she does. She's not a musician, but I thought that was really cool. And she's like, yeah, you have the music that's like the top 40, like, it's McDonald's. Everybody likes it. It feels good, but might not be good for you.
Hmm.
And then I was like, well, and I thought about it, and I kept talking through it as I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, wait a minute, no. Like, I don't want to give anybody's music a negative connotation because it's just different. I
Yeah.
said, because for those songs that everybody likes, I don't want to say they're bad for someone because I'm also a dancer, right? Trained,
Right.
classically trained. So when I hear a hit song or a top 40 or something with a beat and I throw some choreography to it, now I'm having a complete different experience with this music. Um,
Yeah. It's almost like, that's almost sort of a condescending way to look at that sort of thing. Because, I mean, who are any of us to say that another person should enjoy that,
well,
or enjoy something or not enjoy it?
she was
It's,
saying everybody enjoys it, but it might not feed your soul. I think is what she was saying, but
hmm.
I think it was just more of a personal annotation. But I was
Yeah.
saying it can feed your soul in different ways. Because she had mentioned that my music was because she had mentioned she said, I feel your music is relatable. It's a voice for
Hmm.
the voiceless. It just I listened to it because she played my song and then we went into it, and you can edit this out if you want. And I told her just usually I guess artists give her a song to play and at
Hmm.
the beginning of her episode, and then she introduces them and she starts to talk. And I said, I really don't want to have that type of control. Whatever my music speaks to you, whichever
Hmm.
one, play that one, and then let's just have an organic conversation. I don't tell
Yeah.
me ahead of time. And she's like, wow, that's interesting. And the one she picked was my first one, and it was definitely interesting to hear how much people can relate to music. And while my music is, like you said, it's a lot of work. It's all me. And while I'm producing a lot of I'm arranging, composing. I'm not the actual person sitting at the computer producing. Um,
Oh, okay.
I do have, let's see, Eric Mason helped me out with my first three that are out, well, first three-ish, and then I redid that, and I have a sound and vocal engineer, mixer, master engineer, and he's kind of completed everything. So now I'm kind of making the tracks, and I'm also doing this thing, you mentioned the comfort zone. So with all of that, I don't leave myself much room to grow, because even when someone else is sitting in front of the screen clicking and you know, in Logic or whatever they're in,
Mm.
I'm sitting there and I'm telling them exactly what to put. We're writing out, I mean, most songs we're looking at 40, 45 stems. That's ridiculous. Nobody else has it, but it's because my percussion lines are full drum beats and
Hmm.
my bass lines are pretty ridiculous. And I have a lot of instrumentation.
And you're writing all the music as well?
Mhm. Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And as far as like the instruments on there, is it, you know, is it mainly synth, or is that all you, or is the producer, you know, doing some of the instruments as well?
So the instruments, I pick instruments that are personal to me, and most of it is done through the MIDI. I can play it, we can
Okay.
hook it up, and I can play it. So that's what we did for some of them, and then some of them that aren't real keyboard MIDI heavy, we just kind of quantized and punch and played. But I
Gotcha.
had some like, what if it has so many like things, and you can. I think my experience with top 40 music kind of brought me and back to, and the cover bands allowed me to really appreciate all different types of music. There's a point when
Hmm.
someone said to me this week, I just can't do metal. I said, I don't know why. I can't do it. I wish I could, because that is such a niche genre. Like, you have to think
Hmm.
about it. It's really hard to innovate and sound amazing when your genre is very niche. And that genre is very niche. And I have such a massive appreciation for everyone in heavy metal that can go out there and innovate and make new sounds and make new songs. And that's just amazing. And the fandom culture is next level. So I was like, yeah, well, I can't sing it at all. um, I, it's just, I think you just have an understanding for what you're listening to. So with those top
Hmm.
40 bands being in your comfort zone, you know, you're playing all sorts of stuff, not just top 40 today, but top 40 yesterday. Sweet Caroline, okay? You're playing
Hmm.
like all this stuff, and then everybody's like, Freebird, you know, it happens, and then you play it. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay. So you just kind of have to watch how the people interact with you, how you interact with the music, and that back to that comfort zone. And I'm trying to do this thing where I am going to start projects with producers, and either they're going to send me a track and I'll write to it, or I'll have lyrics and I'll send them something with an idea,
There you go.
because I'm not really leaving much room for myself to grow. If I have
Right.
control
You
of
you
everything.
like you like the collaboration, I think, is you feel like you're growing more in a collaborative environment. Is that what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I haven't, we've not experienced this. I haven't done it yet. But yeah, I feel like that would be the case, because now
Right.
my music, it also is kind of niche. It's all kind of the same rhythm. It's all very complex production. Um,
Hmm.
and it's all, you know, kind of feely type stuff. It's real, it's raw.
Yeah, no, I did listen to some of your tracks, and it's very ambient. I guess that's the right word to describe a lot of very atmospheric,
Yes,
you
I
know,
got that.
and clearly like very. I mean, I don't know what the subject matter for all the songs are, but I could tell it's very personal, you know, by the way you put it out there. And I don't know whether it's about relationships you've had or just other life experiences. I mean, you can get into that if you want, but I mean,
If you
like
have a
it definitely
particular song, I'd be happy to.
it definitely seems like it's something very personal and very meaningful to you, and that comes across for sure.
Um, do you write music at all?
I do a little bit. I mean, for the bands I'm in, I usually focus on the lyrics and the vocals, but yeah, like sometimes I'll mess around, and just because I mean, most of the time, like I'm around like guitar players who are much better than me, so I kind of let them do their thing. But Yeah, sometimes I'll mess around with like
You played with
I'll write
Ralph with
on.
us back in the day. That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot. Ralph is playing guitar back then, Lee.
Oh yeah,
And
no,
he's
Ralph was the guitar player in D42. He's a great guy,
went over to Headliners too.
fantastic player. Yeah,
He's awesome.
exactly. And but no, I mean, yeah, like sometimes I'll write either on acoustic guitar or bass, and sometimes that'll come across. But yeah.
So,
Um,
but your songwriting process, what does that look like?
well, I mean, most of the time, like for my band, for Vertebreaker, like a lot of times the guys in the band they'll come up with a riff or something like that, and then I'll try and listen to it, try and think of like a vocal melody in my head, and then a lot of times I'll ask them, I'm like, hey, do you have a particular title for this song, or is there something you want this song to be about? And if they say, yeah, I would like to call it this, then that's easy for me as far as lyrics. Like, okay, that's what you had in mind. Then I'll go off on that idea. Just like try and listen to it and just try to think like, okay, how do I think this is going to sound like, or what is this going to be about? And it just kind of comes out really. I don't really have a particular methodology of doing it. It just whatever the situation fits. Whatever the situation is, I try to find a way to make it fit, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, it does. It's always interesting to hear other musicians' process because you always want to grow and learn and be better as a musician. And so when I hear somebody else's process, it's like, well, maybe I can train myself to do that too.
Yeah.
Um, because
And by the way, I wouldn't sell yourself short as a vocalist as far as being able to sing like rock and metal, because I've heard your voice, and I feel like if you wanted to do some rock tunes, I feel like you could really belt them out.
uh,
I feel like you could be really good if that was something you wanted to do.
I've done rock tunes like classic rock, but not
Exactly.
like Korn or Nine Inch Nails or anything like
Oh,
that.
right. No, I wouldn't.
Although I do feel like,
Uh,
isn't Korn also native to Iowa? Like, woo woo, another shout out.
no, Korn is from Bakersfield,
Okay,
California, but
so Nine Inch Nails, somebody's
oh,
from there.
you're talking about Iowa. Slipknot is from there.
Slipknot, there it is. I was like, one of them is from there. They're one
Corey
of the big
Taylor, yeah.
ones. Yeah.
Well, I'm not talking about like guttural, like the Cookie Monster type vocals. I'm talking about like really like badass hard rock stuff. Stuff like Hailstorm. I feel like you could knock that
Okay.
out if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I probably could do that. Just because of that training and being a vocalist in the cover band, you're learning different styles and you really have to have control of your voice because in those cover bands, it's not like you can make them your own. Your specific orders are to sound like the track. So you've got to figure out how your vocalizations and how you can move and entertain and still sound just like the track, which is hard to do. But it's not as easy as people scoff like, oh, you sell out. Like, not really. It was hard work, and it was good. It allowed me the experience to grab control of my voice, to sing different genres,
Yeah.
and all sorts of music throughout the decades, and really kind of grow my musical base. You had mentioned my songwriting is kind of deep feels. I will say that. My songwriting, I didn't start writing music till I was 16, and that was my first song. I'd always written poems,
Hmm.
but never music. And I played piano, and I was a dancer and gymnast and all that, so I was like, okay. But a boy in my neighborhood, my best friend at the time, he had passed unexpectedly, and I sat down and wrote this song. I played it at my high school talent show, ended up winning that. Entered it in songwriting contests for a local radio station, Wild, and I ended up winning that. And I've just kind of have always written from a place of grief or loss. It used to be really hard for me to like just write anything happy because I can express happiness, I can express joy, but what I feel for me when I'm like sad or no one's listening, that it's very hard for me to feel heard. So that's when I sit down. And that's why they're all kind of deep and feeling real, because that's where they come from. But the first one was a poem that was never meant to be a song, What If, that came out January. Because I've been at this for 4.5 months now, January 29th, maybe. So I don't know how many months that is, but that's when I started my career. But I've been writing forever. I was writing back when I knew you. It's just that no one really knew it.
Right. So, but I mean, let's backtrack for a little bit. But like, even as a kid, you were always interested in music. You mentioned that you were a dancer, that you did musical theater growing up, and
Hmm.
was that always something that you wanted to do? Like, you wanted to do that for a living, or were you thinking that you wanted to give it a go, like even that early on?
Yeah. In middle school, I sent a demo tape, like recorded on a tape,
Oh yeah.
to some girlfriends of mine. They were in a girl group called PYT. And
Nice.
I was like, and they were opening for like NSYNC. They were doing a good job.
Oh wow.
They were big,
Yeah.
yeah. They were opening for Britney and all that, and they were doing big stuff, making moves. And they were like, we can't send this on because I didn't really know. I made this in my bedroom, while singing over a stereo.
It's funny you mentioned that. I almost forget, like, growing up in Tampa. I didn't grow up in Tampa. Like, I moved. I was from Pennsylvania
Hmm.
originally, but I moved down when I was 15. But like, I forgot. I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely like a lot of the Backstreet guys were from the area.
Orlando is where everything was at the time when we were growing up. I mean,
It was like the center of like all this teen pop stuff that was hot at the late 90s or early
oh yeah.
2000s.
Oh yeah, and I went on to record in some of those studios in Orlando, and they were amazing.
No doubt. Well, that's cool that your friend's group was like opening for NSYNC at the time and back when they were the hottest thing
They
going.
were
So
in
that's
like
pretty
Mandy
rad.
Moore's music video, like
No kidding.
yeah, like that first song she came out with. But I knew them through the dance studio, and I
Nice.
was a dancer. I've always loved music, and as a young girl, I always thought, well, I'll go and I will be the first black principal dancer at American Ballet Theater. Thank you, Misty Copeland, for doing that for me because
Right.
I gave up on ballet, or it gave up on me. I went the I don't need to go to college for this. Let me just go ahead and I'll be a doctor instead, and I'll just take some music theory and then I
Hmm.
and dance. And I dropped out like 3 weeks into college because I was like, after the ad drop date, of course. So I failed those classes, so I have to go back to college. I have to retake them. I don't know if I could
Oh,
retake dance, and it was like advanced. I was in my point shoes, like I don't think I could retake that, but okay. Um, but I thought, okay, well, I'll do this. But then I realized I can get paid to be a dancer and a singer without this. But I'm glad that I did like the little music theory, and for the 3 or 4 classes I went to, I still read the whole textbook. It didn't matter.
hmm
And it gave me an appreciation for classical music, which I already had. I kind of was trained classically in piano. I mean, not kind of, I was, but I wasn't good. I'll tell you right now, I was not good.
You could already play piano at that point.
I've played piano since I was 6. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
And
All right. So yeah, that
but I never really read the music, if that makes sense.
gotcha.
I listened to, like, even though I was playing that young, and even still to this day, I can like go through the sheet music and like I can even write sheet music. But my problem is that it's hard for me to process it when I see it into the keys, right? So if I hear it, I play by ear. And I
I'm the
can,
same way.
yep. So I was memorizing sheet music. So I would
There
be
you go.
doing it, and my teacher would say, and her name was Kim, she would be like, you forgot to flip the page. And I would still be playing because I knew how it was supposed
You
to
just knew
sound.
how it went.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's like, you need to read the music. But
hmm
I'm like, that's just one more thing to do while I'm playing and frantically messing my arms around to stay on, because I just, whenever I sit down at the piano, there's never any music in front of me anymore. Um,
There you go.
but listening to classical music is kind of a place where I've trained myself to get into the headspace to write too when I'm not initially provoked, right? So I'll sit
hmm
down and what comes out comes out. It's not planned. I don't have words. I don't have music. I just kind of sit there, play some chords till I get a progression I like, and then the whatever I'm feeling comes out to that.
Yeah.
And then I take a voice note. I don't write. I've never really written them down. I'm starting to now. But I would just take a voice note so I wouldn't forget what I did because I'm hearing it. I know what chords those are.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
so that's kind of was my process before, but now I can like listen to you know Chopin or Tchaikovsky or Mozart or Bach, really Mozart and Bach, those are really, really great ones to listen to. Um, I and listening to and even talk about like any of the great classics through the Baroque and Romance period, and it's those chord progressions. You can first of all, as a songwriter, reuse them because it's been 120 years, and second of all, because it gives you a broader term of what composition can sound like with either multiple instruments or just a harpsichord. Vivaldi's another one I like to listen to. And you'll hear a lot of that coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So if I need to write something and I know it's like, okay, it's songwriting time. It's time to sit down and listen. I'll take a couple of the top 40 songs that are on the Billboard right now. And with my genre, I don't really have one. My genre, I don't know what you would say, because it's like pop means popular, right? I'm not popular, so I can't say it's
Right.
pop, but it's poppy. It's commercial.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but like it reminds me of like a lot of the stuff that Justin Timberlake is doing in some of his albums, where it's
That's cool. No, that's an awesome comparison.
yeah. Well, I mean, like obviously he's a known for doing his pop stuff, but like if you hear some of his recent I mean his solo albums in the last 10 years or so, it's very complex and progressive and very unique, and I feel like kind of what you're doing is sort of in the similar vibe, where it's like it's pop but it's not cookie cutter either. It's very unique and original, and I think that comes across.
Well, trying to submit to playlists or even when I'm sending it to the distributor, it's hard to describe what genre it is, because that's always what they ask. What genre is it? What's the main genre? What's the secondary?
Like, it's not dance pop.
It's definitely not. And it's slower. It definitely has, that 808 and the trap snare. It always has traps and hi-hat and the percussion. And the 808, there's always kind of a classical feel to it. There's also this contemporary feel where I will use pads or synths to distort my keys and playing. And then there's vocalizations. There's just all sorts of different things going on in my music that I thought, like, I'm sitting here thinking that everybody who is on the radio writes their own music and does this. And I'm sitting here doing everything. And my engineer's like, my master engineer now, John, he's great. And he's like, no, nobody does that. Not even, like, if you look at even the best, like, arguably pop queen, who is it?
I don't know. Beyonce, maybe? Like
Pop?
Mm-hmm. Geez. It shows you how out of touch I am
Lady
right
Gaga.
now. But,
I'll just go ahead and say
Gaga.
She is. Yeah. She's going to be the pop queen. Okay. So.
Sure.
And even her, with going to NYU, she studied music. You can see some of her earlier songs. It's on YouTube. You can find them where she's playing the music that she wrote and she's singing, and it's amazing.
Yeah, she's legit.
And she comes out doing dance music, and it's we didn't even know she could sing till later on, right? Because she came out and she was playing the club scene, and she's been doing this a long time. We're about the same age. No, I think we are. And she had been doing this a long time. She had started in the early 2000s, been signed, been dropped, doing clubs, like, and she's like, I am the next era of dance music. And then unarguably.
Yeah, Born This Way, all that. Yeah.
Well, her album Art Pop, it's so funny. It came out in 2013. She dropped that. And I think the only single to really hit the charts was Applause from that album. It was her second album. And if you look at the charts today, you're looking at a rebirth of that album. She knew, and she walked in and said, I think famously, like, I know where music is going, and this is where it's going. And they were like, no. And so they kind of previously thought it was, because I had seen it on DJ Whitesnake's Twitter or Instagram or something, and he had worked closely with her on developing that album. And it just kind of got reborn a couple of weeks ago, and it's now on the charts, and she was right. This is where music is going. I know it. I've been in the clubs. This is where dance music is. And what she did was completely not in the time. It was ahead of her time. That's why it's big now. And that's crazy to think that there's so many years in between what you're doing and what could be, and when it could be popular. So it's a risk right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's something to be said about just sort of like, going with your gut and marching to the beat of your own drum and not necessarily, not trying to be something, not trying to chase the trend, but just like, okay, if you believe in it, just go for it because you never know. And she's always struck me as someone who's, always been original and well, I mean, original in the sense like Born This Way does sound a lot like Madonna's Express Yourself, but that's a whole other thing. But it's
I don't know that Madonna has an Express Yourself foundation though, or that she has the fandom culture and marketing machine that Lady Gaga does, or that she has her own makeup line that's vegan. I mean, there's so many things that this woman has done single-handedly, or that I don't know. Madonna, I think did she get an Oscar for Lolita? I can't remember, but
probably not.
Academy Award.
I don't know.
Well, Lady Gaga's gotten, I think she's out there. I mean, she's doing things that
I take that back then.
Yeah. I'm like, we can say that. I mean, Madonna was the queen, but and then Mariah Carey was the queen, and then but it's hard to reinvent yourself, or for an album almost a decade ago to come back out and be on top.
Absolutely.
That is insane.
Absolutely. No, I have a ton of respect for Lady Gaga. I especially love the fact that she named herself after one of my favorite songs, Radio Gaga by Queen.
Queen. So vinyl set. They're one of my greatest inspirations. Prince, Queen, Aerosmith. And then if I go back a little bit further, the Ronettes, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
If I go back further, the Frank Miller Orchestra.
There you go.
I can go in through the decades and I can listen to these musicians and their originality, and it's just like, whoa, like it's inspirational. And some of that comes across in my music too. You can hear it.
Definitely. So let's talk about this the stuff you're doing now. It's you started doing this back in January.
Well, I released my first single in January.
You released your first single in January, I should say. But how many tracks do you have up right now? Are you working on some new stuff right now? And might there be any live shows in the future? Maybe.
I'm looking to do some live. I have a band kind of put together. I'm frantically looking up my stats. So 3.5 months ago, I guess is when What If debuted. And it looks like on YouTube, my lyric video has 45,000 views.
Nice.
Come With Me, I did on April 16th, so about a month ago. That was my third release. And I did a lyric video, so that one has about 25,000. And then With Love was my second, and I didn't do a lyric video. It's really short. It's less than 2 minutes. And it was super easy for me to just kind of figure that out. I'm trying to, I know that With Love, the one that I didn't do the lyric video for, is the most played.
That's awesome.
With Love on Apple Music. Shazam's What If, though, for whatever reason. Come With Me is pretty close in top songs.
Oh, that's cool that you're getting that many plays. You must be just promoting the hell out of it right now.
Nope.
No kidding. Wow. You're just a super badass then. That's awesome.
I got on some playlists and not like curated on Spotify, but some other people put me on their playlists, and I'm in this group of musicians on Instagram where we kind of all, like, whenever you make a post, like, we post it to the group. We're like, hey, made a post. Here's the link. And everybody goes and likes and saves and shares. And then we support each other. And so when we make, we get awards or we get accolades or we make a playlist, we always feature each other. And it's really cool how that works. So
that is cool. I got to talk to some more other bands in my genre. Like, guys, why aren't we doing this? Everyone's out for themselves. That's a whole other thing.
I'm trying to find in Spotify right now because I had an influx of listeners. Let me go to my page here because I can't open Spotify for music for whatever reason, or for artists. Yeah, we've got With Love, it's still by far the most popular, and that was released in February. We're looking at 3,500 plays on that one, just streams, and favorites. So that's pretty cool. As far as what I'm doing in my musical plan, I've got 4 singles releasing the rest of the year. So that'll make 7 total for this year. They're all going to release. I liked the release with the lyric video and the premiere, so we're going to keep that. I just, I'm having kind of an issue where, like I said, I need to be a little more vulnerable. Like, I'm not sure that's possible because my music is very vulnerable. It's very raw. I'm very real with myself. Like, I lie. Like, yeah, okay. Like, I say it. Like, this is who I am. Which is also kind of funny because it's probably the most honest thing you can do. And that's one of the rules, I think, in this industry is you can't be dishonest and people see right through it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that being honest about, yes, I've made mistakes before and owning up to it. I think a lot of people can relate to that, for sure. How do you become more vulnerable than that? I don't know.
By relinquishing control. So, like I said, by collabing or allowing other people to work on my music.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do that. My next single that I'm releasing is called Done Being Nice. Not sure when it's releasing because I had complete control over everything under the production, and it's not where I want it to be. I'm not happy with it. So on Sunday, I'm going to go back and just kind of say, you're the expert. Why don't you work on this for a minute? And I don't say anything because
I love that title, Done Being Nice. It tells you everything you need to know.
There's going to be a definite change in the imaging and the way that my website looks and the branding. So it'll be interesting to see how everything works out. It's a little more me.
Yeah, you have Done Being Nice and With Love. So it's like you're covering all the bases right there.
I've I looked at my release schedule. I have like a Gantt chart, and I was looking at the titles of everything, and I was like, people are gonna be like, man, what is this girl going through? So
who hurt you?
Yeah. So I've got these songs, and I'm gonna release just singles this year, and then probably an EP or a full album next year, or a couple EPs. I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna do it. I'm just writing and staying writing. That's what I can do. So with the pandemic and everything, playing live, a lot of my band is in Orlando. It's really hard. It's hard to get like gigs that pay what professional musicians are worth. So because I worked for the Top 40, I know that I'm not going to sit there and play at your venue for $25 an hour. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You want me there for 4 hours? No. Yeah. I can't afford that. But I could spend that time waiting tables at your venue or bartending at your venue and make more money. So that's not a good value estimator for me. So it's been I guess kind of tough figuring out how to get all of us paid. Doing little,
especially when you're doing original music, it's just, I can tell you for sure that unless you're like guaranteed that you're bringing in a lot of people, it's like most venues are not gonna pony up that kind of cash, and it's very tough. So I feel like, and I don't know how it is necessarily with your genre when it comes to playing original music. I can tell you in mine, it's very difficult unless you're already like bringing a ton of money in, and even then, some of the promoters end up taking it from you. But that's a whole other conversation.
No, yeah, and I'm learning all about that, and it's just like, so right now, since I only have 3 songs released, those are the 3 that I can play that are original. So it's really hard to get into an original venue when I only have 3 original songs I can play right now. So right now, I'm like, okay, I can look at breaking down to my keys player and I, or just a couple, pieces smaller, and we can do like a happy hour somewhere, or, wherever we need to be, because every time I play, I do gain fans. People do subscribe and follow, and, that happens a lot.
Or it's kind of like, I think Amanda was doing this when she was doing her original stuff, where it's like she would mainly book cover shows and then like weave in some of the original tracks here and there. Mm-hmm. But like mainly like you're playing covers to get people in the door, be like, okay, you've heard all this, here's one of mine now.
Yeah.
That's that could be a way to do it. I don't know.
That's what we have. I mean, I have a set list that we've worked on, but I played it on my music launch party in January on the 14th at Hooch and Hive. It was pretty cool. It was just me and my keyboardist. I wanted a breakdown, and he jazzed everything up, right? I went through all the composition of my original music. I played the two that were being released 2 weeks apart with Love and What If, and but I played them at the end, and then I let everybody see, because it was a private party, my lyric video before, 2 weeks before it came out. But it was pretty awesome. And with that set list, I can take that set list, and it doesn't have to be jazzed and like slow. Like we can spunk it up too. I have that set list, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like we've already established that. And because I did all the top 40, literally pick a song, any song. From any genre that's top 40. I probably know the words.
That's awesome. One more thing I want to talk about before we close up here, but I mean, because I know you have such a history with all this other stuff, but I saw this. I think it was either on your Facebook or Instagram, and I got to ask, you were a Tampa Bay Bucs cheerleader, weren't you?
I knew it. I was like, that's coming up. Yeah. So remember when I said I did like 3 weeks of college and or whatever, how many weeks it was, and I just kind of dropped out. That's because in my senior year in high school, it was Friday night. They had tryouts going on all week. And you would have to take these pre-classes, and you could whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to go. And my sister called me, and she's a Tampa Bay Bucks cheerleader for ever. And
oh, really? Okay.
I think she might have one of the longest, if not the longest runs.
Wow.
For the Bucks, from the 80s to the 2000s. That's how long. Wow. And so she's like, you need to do this. So I woke up at 6 a.m. next morning, and I got dressed, and I went. And I didn't really think I was going there and I was going to make the team, because I'm sitting in this room with 600-700 other women that are beautiful, and they've been at all of this stuff. They're committed. And I'm just showing up with crazy curly hair, and I'm just in a bikini because I didn't have anything to wear. So little shorts and a top and tights, because jazz shoes. I didn't know what to wear.
Right.
But it ended up being choreography and dance centric, and but it wasn't the cool version they're doing now, where they're taking the hip hop turn. It was definitely the classic kick lines and the pop feel.
Right.
The pop dance.
Because I mean, at that level, because I don't know if you cheered in high school or anything like that, but I know you had the dance background, or did you?
I did. I cheered.
Okay.
I cheered competitively and for my high school.
There you go. Because I didn't know if because you had the dance background, I figured it probably relied more on that.
Well, I also was a gymnast, so.
Well, there you go. So you're covering. You're checking all the boxes right now. So yeah.
Yeah. But to answer your question, I did cheer for the Buccaneers, and that was one of the coolest experiences of my life. And I remember when they announced the team, it was because I had gotten the callbacks for Sunday. So I went back Sunday. You had to wear the same number, do everything, wear the same outfit. And then they were going to be announcing either Friday or Wednesday. I forget what day it was. That they were announcing. This was back in March. And I'm still a senior in high school. I'm still in class. But I remember when they announced it, I went to my favorite math teacher's classroom. I wasn't even taking her class. And I was like, refresh it. It's supposed to come up at noon. And they ended up saying it over the loudspeaker because it didn't refresh at noon. And I didn't know until they announced it over the loudspeaker that I had made the team. Nice. So that I was in high school still. But I was 18.
That's wild.
So I was going to be 18 by the cutoff date. I wasn't 18.
Right,
I was 17
right.
when I made the team. But,
yeah, you just made it.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
That's cool. I saw that. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I had no idea that you did all that, but that's a cool thing. That must have been just such a unique experience going and seeing the games. I don't know if you met any famous people along the way, or I don't know what that all entailed.
Our first show that I did, that I was a part of, they had NFL Europe still going on, and we did the halftime show for, I feel like it was the Rhine Fire and something else, and It was in Germany, in Dusseldorf, and
Oh, you went over to Germany to do
yes,
that.
and it's
Oh,
my
okay.
first time out of the country. I'm in Germany. This is my first show I'm doing with the Bucks,
Yeah.
and it's a halftime show with Right Said Fred.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's just us and Right Said Fred. And
Nice.
the song was "You're My Mate and I Will Stand by You." If you haven't had a second to listen to it, you should. It was
I have not.
very
I'll
interesting.
have to look that up.
He's
Yeah,
the I'm too sexy guy, right? So I'm thinking we're gonna do
yes,
that.
of course, the follow-up to "I'm Too Sexy,"
Well,
right?
it was interesting.
One of the deeper cuts, but that's cool.
So from there, a lot of the girls were into modeling. There was one girl in particular who was, I feel like she was the Miss Strawberry Festival queen or something in Pasco. She's a big deal, and she cheered for a long time too. And she's just as
Yeah,
beautiful today as she was then. And she was older than
no
me by
doubt.
about 4 or 5 years. I can't remember specifics, but she, like, every time I would walk in Nordstrom's in the mall, like, there's her face. And I'm like, how are you guys doing this? So they introduced me to some agencies, and I end up modeling, doing commercials, doing,
Nice.
and then I'm like, I dance too and I sing. Like, so can you get me
Hmm.
some of those? So I start
There you go.
auditioning like twice a week in Miami for commercials that are specific for dance or touring. Um, and tour in Miami. I went down. I had applied. I tried out for this particular tour the year before, and I never got a call back. And that year, I was like, you know what? I'm already here. Let me just do it. And so I did it again, and I got a call back, but it was like 2 months later, and I was like, oh God. That was a long time. It freaks me out. Like, and
Hmm.
it was for singing and dancing, and for a principal position as a female touring. Um, And I was so freaked out. I was like, there's no way that they called me back. So I went back, did the choreography. Now the callback was in Orlando at this point, at Spotlight, I think. And
No, no, you said this was touring. Was this for like a musical, like a production?
so it was a huge production, but it was not a musical. It was an original show I think they still have going on, that was put on by Honeywell that partnered with NASA and went around
Hmm.
to middle schools and high schools and elementary schools, internationally. And like we're talking like full on trucks, like huge production, huge screens on either side, like you would see at a huge concert. And there's one girl and two guys. And I
Huh.
booked that.
Wow.
So that was like my second really big, like, whoa, like now I'm on a tour bus. Now I have like like what is happening? Like
That's
new
huge.
city every 3 days, if not less. Bus rides
That's a
15
big
hours
deal.
plus. Like this is crazy.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that was cool. So it was all original music they had produced, and they kind of aimed it to me. The music now that they have has changed from the music that I sang, or from when I
Right.
looked. I don't know if they're still up and running. I'm pretty sure they are, but
So it's NASA and Honeywell putting on a musical production. Like,
it's
are you singing about like space and
it's
engineering and
called
stuff? Or
FMA Live. So
wow.
force mass acceleration, and it was about Newton's three laws of
Mm.
motion and how they incorporated to get kids excited about
Yeah.
science.
So it's like an educational type of
Right.
thing. That's
But
interesting. That's pretty cool though.
it was really cool, and the kids loved it. They loved it.
Nice.
So I think if you dig deep enough, because this is over 10 years ago, this is
Mm.
a long time ago. If you dig deep enough on YouTube, you can find I think there might be one video still up. So you gotta dig deep enough. Quincy High School in Boston, FMA Live, if you dig.
Nice. That I've got to see. That like
I'll send
I'm
you the
intrigued
link.
now. Please do. Please do. Well, this is awesome, man. From singing for Honeywell and NASA to what you're doing now. Like you've come a long way. So that's super cool. So Lainey, where can they find your stuff online? Where's your social media, all your links? Go ahead and plug away.
Everything is going to be at Laine Music Official, except for Twitter. But I'm old and don't understand Twitter, so I don't tweet a lot or fleet or what they have there. But that's at Laine Music,
Did you say
underscore.
Fleet? Is Fleet a
I
thing? I
saw
don't
it
know.
the other day. I kind of freaked out. I was like, "What is this?" And yeah, there's a fleet. I think it's like tweet. It's a story, maybe. Like, you know how they have.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. I have like
They,
19 followers. Okay, it's not good.
I swear these kids and their computers and their World Wide Webbing
World Wide Webbing. Yeah, and like
and their Ataris and Dan Fogelberg records. I don't know.
maybe that's us. I'm like looking to see because I hadn't been posting in the last couple of weeks on Instagram, and I had surpassed 600 followers, but I'm back down to 593 now. I have about 4,500 or 4,200 on Facebook. And then I have my website, Laine with Love, Laine, for those wondering, .com, where you can find links to everything else there as well. And if you look me up, Laine, and the title of my song on any platform, digital streaming platform that you have, Tidal, Deezer, Amazon Music, Spotify, iTunes, you'll find me.
And we'll drop all kinds of links in the description. LaineWithLove.com.
Yeah.
I believe that's sort of the central spot.
The Linktree has the centralist spot. I think the Linktree will give you everything to
there you go.
And that's just linktr.ee/Laine Music Official, and that's got all the YouTube. It's got links to literally everything. And by the way, if anyone ever wants to talk to me, I actually answer. If you email me or you message me, I do answer my mail. So nobody's doing it for me.
Well, this is awesome, man. It's so great to catch up with you after all this time and see all the stuff you were doing. When I saw how serious you were, how hard you were going for this, and I'm like, I've got to have her on. I've got to figure out what's going on here. So this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is cool. Hey, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud that you're doing all this stuff, and continued success.
Thank you so much, and this is so awesome. I can't wait for this to air.
Thanks once again to my good friend, the beautiful and talented Laine. LaineWithLove.com is the website. That's LAINE with love.com to go find all her music and all her links. Really talented girl. It was so cool to catch up with her and do this podcast. I know she's been working so hard with her original music lately, so by all means, definitely go check that out if you get the chance. As far as upcoming events, I've got quite a bit coming up. First of all, with Vertebraker, my band, we are playing Saturday, July 10th at Orlando Brewing, along with Auditory Armory, Vapid, and Subject to Change, a brand new band, I believe, out of West Palm, but they have some of the members who live in Orlando, so it's going to be a great night. Admission is free to get in. You don't have to pay anything as far as cover charges, so please come out. It'll be a lot of fun. And then after that, this has just been announced. We will be going back to Cocoa in Brevard County in Florida. We will be going back to the Crying Monk, and we will be playing along with our good friends Lydia Can't Breathe and Somebody's Hero. So that's going to be a great night of music. Definitely recommend you check that out. And as you may have heard, I am now playing bass for the band Vox, which is started by my friend Regis Lima, who's the lead singer of that band. I've recently started playing a few shows with them. Just last night, the night before, as I record this, I just played my first show with that band, and Felipe from Vertebraker is also in that band on guitar. Well, anyways, our next show is Sunday, August 27th at the Brass Mug in Tampa. We will be there with Rising Up Angry, who's the band who's headlining. We will also be there with Rebirth and Surviving September. Definitely want to check that out. I believe it's $10 at the door. It starts at 6 p.m. on Sunday night, June 27th. Definitely make sure you check that out. The Brass Mug is at 1450 Skipper Road in Tampa, Florida. Make sure you check that out. And in September, on Saturday, September 11th, Vox will be playing the Blue Ridge Rock Festival in Virginia. And the Blue Ridge Rock Festival is one of the biggest rock festivals in the country. It will be the weekend of September 9th through the 12th. We will be there on Saturday, September 11th. So, definitely we will be there along with the local stage. I believe some other Florida bands like Breathing Theory and DeToro will be there as well. So I'm really excited about that. But the show itself, the Saturday that we will be playing, that will be headlined by Five Finger Death Punch, Megadeth, Lamb of God, Seether. Yeah, there are a lot of different bands there. Over the weekend they'll have artists such as Breaking Benjamin, A Day to Remember, Hailstorm, Skillet, Black Label Society, POD, Rob Zombie, Limp Bizkit, Rise Against, I Prevail, Chevelle, Anthrax, Asking Alexandria, Fozzy, one of my favorite bands, Shinedown, Papa Roach, Killswitch Engage. It's going to be a completely stacked lineup, and yeah, I can't wait for it. It will be hosted by Steve-O of Jackass fame, so that'll be a lot of fun to check that out. So yeah, that's an amazing opportunity to play at a big festival like that. I've never played at a festival like that with all those big bands, so that's definitely something I'm checking off the bucket list of my career. So I'm really excited to do that in Danville, Virginia, Saturday, September 11th. Hope to see some of you there. And that is it for this episode of the Phoenix Report. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JackXConnor. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/JackConnorMusic. Also, feel free to check out my bands. First, Vertebreaker at facebook.com/VertebreakerBand, and Vox at facebook.com/VoxRocks, VoxXRocks. Make sure you check that out. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. If you're listening to this on YouTube, iTunes, however you listen to podcasts, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, leave a good rating. Go back and listen to all the other episodes. This has been the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor. Thank you for joining me. Rock on.